What's happening, everybody? And thanks for dropping in on another episode of the Crash Bang Boom podcast. Today's guest is drummer Carson Gant, a.k.a. One Up Drum VIDZ. Carson and I get into the extensive process of creating his upcoming sample pack, some Mars Volta geek outs, social media effects, Buddy Rich confusion, Dilla Elvin Jones and Tony Williams, and a whole lot more. Humility and humor for the win, boys. Carson's chock full of it. Amen. Crash Bang Boom podcast can be found on iTunes Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Luminary, Google Play, Podbean, and Amazon Music Podcast, to name a few. Feel free to check out any of the previous 240 plus episodes. Give me a like, a subscription, and or a positive review, as the support is appreciated. I am also looking for a new sponsor for the podcast, so if there are any drummers out there with some websites they'd like to push, hit me up at crashbangboompodcast@gmail.com and let's work something out. So without further ado, here we go. Let's get going on the get down. One up, Crash Bang Boom.
Crowds go mad with joy.
Yeah! AK One Up Drum VIDZ. Carson, what's happening, my man?
How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. I've been trying to catch up with you for like a year and a half, so finally you came around to gracing me with your presence. So congratulations to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, geez, that was a long time coming. Holy smokes.
Well, 2020 was a strange year and still now into, which is insane to even think about it, late 2021. But I believe you found out the long and painful road that is recording and launching a sample pack. So tell me a little bit about the laborious ass process of what y'all did, because it sounds pretty extensive.
Yeah. Well, when in March of last year, when everything kind of hit, I was talking with my neighbor, who happens to be an incredible mixing engineer and drummer and producer, you know, all that in his own right. And he was like, you know, we should make like a huge sample pack during this lockdown. And I was like, yeah, it sounds like a pretty good plan. So we quarantined together illegally and run hard drives back and forth, and we go out to the studio. But yeah, essentially we recorded every hi-hat, tambourine, and shaker loop at every tempo in multiple feels from 60 beats per minute to 190.
Oh,
took thousands of hours. It was a big project. So that's why every time you'd be like, do you want to do a podcast? I was like, oh, can we wait? I'm like, it's going to be done. It's going to be done. I swear. And my wife would be like, when's it going to be done? I'd be like, oh, any day now. And then, 19 months later, and we're in beta testing now. So, we're almost there. We're getting there.
So when you say you're going through like different patterns, different feels, so you're playing straight eighths, swung eighths, straight 16ths, more like loose 16ths, quarter notes, loose quarter notes, like different patterns, all with different feels, and at all those different, the range of those tempos?
Yeah, it's nuts. It's like so for like instance, for like the hi-hats, we start at 60 beats per minute and go up to 190. Actually, I think the hi-hats are up to 160 for now, but I have stuff I still got to add. But the tambourines and shakers are all from 60 to 190. And it's like, yeah, literally it'd be like, okay, we're doing 8 notes, accent, downbeat, regular 8th notes. And I'd record 8 bars at 60 BPM, and then it'd go to 61 BPM, and I'd do it again. And we'd record every single tempo and then go through and pick all the magic bits. And there was so much editing. I'm so fast. You should see me in Pro Tools now. I'm a little wizard.
Wow.
And we did that. So I think for the hi-hats, there's over like 60 patterns. But the thing is, I had to record them all straight, and I had to record them all again slinky, and then all again swung. So we physically recorded every pattern at every tempo, and then again and again in different feels. Like we didn't just like edit the feels together in Pro Tools. Like we tracked them, because like, if you're playing a shaker, the beads are going to roll totally different playing swung.
Absolutely.
And that I did not record the shakers and tambourines. That was Spencer. I did all the hi-hats, and he did all the percussion. But
it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned the way that shakers work and kind of the rebound and all of those internal parts that make the actual shaker sound, and getting the feel of that.
Right.
I don't know. I almost feel like it was easier for me to play it a little bit more swung because I could sort of whip my arm a little bit and sort of roll it around on the insides of it. And making it really straight was really hard to get a consistent, rigid
so hard.
sound. It's like next to fucking impossible.
Yeah, like playing like I don't know, straight eighth notes at 60 beats per minute. Eighth notes with a shaker, it's insanely hard. It's like, okay, we're gonna do that one again. It's like, are you recording? It's like, and then you gotta hold your breath because the gain is so high. We record, on each loop we recorded with over 16 microphones, like U87s, Coles. Yeah, so it's like you get a pattern, and then you click on in the website, you can click on the pattern, and it breaks it down to all the raw mics that we use. So it's like we only recorded one shaker, and one pair of hi-hats and one tambourine, but we recorded everything with like between 16 and 20 microphones. So you have like the sonic options that you have. It sounds like 20 different shakers, and we have mono versions and stereo. It's like, it's nuts. It's over 500,000 WAV files.
That sounds kind of hard to navigate.
But it isn't. I know it does sound that way, but when you go to the website, it's just laid out by the instrument. You just choose your like shaker, and then it has BPM. So you go to the BPM of the track you're working on, you choose your feel, and then the patterns, you can preview them all, and then you kind of click on them to break them into the microphone. So when you're actually in there, you can like, if you're working on a track, you can be in and out in like, 60 seconds.
Man.
But anyways, it sounds like I'm hard selling it, but that's just what I was working on. I am hard selling it. Please.
Yeah, no
please
shit.
Buy it.
19 months worth of work? Fuck yeah, man. The hard sell it by all means.
$6. Come on, get on it.
Oh, that's outrageous, man. Well, I know you're in like the Alberta, Canada, Calgary area.
Yep. Yeah, I'm right in Calgary. Pretty decently close to downtown, kind of 10 minutes outside downtown. You ever been?
No, I haven't, man. I've only been to Montreal. That's the only Canadian spot that I hit, and I was there for a little over 24 hours because we missed our connecting flight to France in Montreal. So I spent the night in Montreal, and it was really cool. But I
felt like you were in France a little bit.
It was cool, man. Montreal was really cool, and I definitely want to get out. There's so much of Canada that I want to see, especially some of the great outdoor areas and whatnot. But I mean, it sounds like you just spent 19 months doing nothing but recording hi-hats, shakers, and tambourines. I mean, did you get out of your house and go do outdoor activities? Did you ride horses, play hockey, shoot some guns? What do y'all do in Alberta? Did you do any of it?
We did shoot some guns for sure.
Nice.
I mean, there's always time for a little shooting. I got out snowboarding very few times. No, it was a lot of sitting in front of Pro Tools with headphones with the gain cranked so high, listening to stomach sounds, gurgling, and being like, can't use that loop. Can't use that one. Yeah, it's insane. Just like if Spencer ate something that wasn't sitting well with him, the next couple sessions were like, the edits were like insanely challenging. It was very, very frustrating, but a lot of computer time.
Damn, dude.
I got a 2-year-old, so
So you're a semi-recent dad.
Yeah, semi-recent dad. Yeah. You have a couple kids. I've listened in the podcast.
I do.
How old are your kids?
3.5 and a 1.5.
Okay, yeah.
2 boys. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I got a little boy. They're the best.
Yeah, they're yours is kind of at the age where they start to become a little bit more of a pain in the ass in my experience.
Well, he really likes to tweak stuff. So he's figured out how the drum key works. So he's kind of trying these custom tunings. I'll come down to track and be like, my floor tom will be real loose.
Oh, he just went over there and oh wow.
Oh yeah, he tunes my drums, and he because the hi-hat rod, you can fit cymbals on it. He'll go and he'll take any cymbal he can like kind of hold above his head, and he'll stack them up, which has actually been kind of cool. I've never thought of stacking like a bunch of splashes on the top of my hi-hat rod. And so I don't know, but yeah, I kind of give him free reign in the studio, which may have to come to an end here eventually.
Yeah. My both of my sons, especially the oldest one, is pretty destructive. So I just keep him I try to keep him out of the drum room. We'll go down and I'll play drums. I'll let him play a little bit, but generally speaking, I just try to divert his attention with toys that he destroys because he's going to get down there and he's going to start destroying shit. I know it's going to happen.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's funny, man. I was thinking about how I sort of first came aware of you, and I'm pretty sure it ties back to Thomas Pridgeon giving you a shout out saying that you kind of got some of what he did and then looking up the video tutorial, whatever you want to call it, and it was based around paradiddles. And it was interesting to then see sort of what you do with the Matt Garska side and then sort of stickings with paradiddles and displacing them and moving them around and changing feels and all that. So,
right.
So the paradiddle permutations that you did were super cool, obviously. And then, it's funny the way that paradiddles, in my opinion, kind of tie back to the Mars Volta, especially I think the John Theodore years. I always was hearing a pretty good bit of sort of underlying paradiddles. So I'm assuming you must be a fan of the Mars Volta, I would imagine.
I was a huge Volta head, like growing up. Like I listened to Volta before I had even heard Led Zeppelin, which is such a weird thing.
That's wild. That tells me how young you are.
Well, yeah, I don't know if it was that or I loved Mars Volta. So like when D-Louse in the Comatorium came out,
amazing.
I was in middle school, middle school, I think. And like, I remember just like all my friends, like we just like, girls didn't seem to like them that much.
No, fuck no.
I got a theory.
Girls don't like prog. They never have. They hate Rush. They generally don't like King Crimson. My wife hates Frank Zappa. She hates Frank Zappa more than anybody. Not to say that Frank's the most prog, but I mean, he's certainly progressive and totally nerdy and crazy. But yeah, chicks don't dig shit like that.
Catholic girls. I love that record. So I was just like obsessed with the first couple records, and then John Theodore is like, a god to me. Like
he's so amazing.
He's still just so good.
Yeah. And
then Pridgeon was just, it's a different thing. You're just kind of like from the downbeat of, what was that record? Bedlam and Goliath?
Yes.
Yeah, I was so nuts. You're just kind of like, I'd never heard anything quite like that. So
sure.
And so I gotta go take a lesson with him down in Oakland, and he kind of just showed me the stuff in person, and then I kind of took it home and was just like, all right, well, I guess paradiddles are where it's at. I'm gonna try and figure this stuff out, and I spent a lot of time kind of doing that, and that's kind of where I had the idea to start up whatever I call One Up Drum Vids. It was initially I wanted to call it One Up Drum Vids because I wanted to take an exercise and then just continually try and one up myself. Initially, I was like, yeah, man, and I'll like it's kind of funny. The very first video I did, which was just, I think it was called the Displaced Single Paradiddle Challenge.
Yes.
And I was like, I'll put $40 up for whoever can play this at 170 BPM and post it. And within like 10 minutes of posting the video, some guy at Berkeley posts himself doing it on a pillow, and I'm like, here's my money. Like I'm such an idiot. Like, why did I think no one could do that?
That's just funny.
I'm like, I'm terrible. That's what it is. So
no, man, I've watched some of those videos and I'm like, damn, you're really good at it. And I have not, admittedly, not spent the time. I even downloaded the PDF, looked at it a little bit, watched you play it, and I was like, shit, man, I'm going to do this at some point. I'm also, in full disclosure, historically bad at sitting down and reading music. I've got a pile of drum books that I've been meaning to do that with, and it has not happened. So it's nothing, not a reflection on you.
No, you and me both.
It's just my laziness in actually sitting down and reading music. I just don't like doing it.
No, neither do I. No, I'm with you. Honestly, I would say don't even try. I don't know why I did it. Like in hindsight, like it's kind of funny. I mean, if anyone comes across my Instagram, they'd be like, this guy doesn't play paradiddles ever. Which
right.
There's no paradiddles going on. Yeah.
Totally.
I don't know if it was a waste of time, but it was a phase. I went through a paradiddle phase for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You did. Yeah. I mean, you also did the Matt Garska one. So I guess like, what was it that you saw or heard in his playing similar to, I guess, the Thomas Pridgeon thing? I mean, I don't know if you took a lesson with Matt, but it sounds like you were able to sort of outline some exercises, paradiddle based, that were Matt Garska influenced at the very least. So what was it that you heard in his playing that made you develop that?
Man, that was pretty much a clickbait title. I think you just stick you just stick Matt Garska in the name, and all of a sudden you get a couple 100,000 views.
Good job, buddy. I watched it because of that.
No, yeah, exactly. No, I mean that's pathetic to say, but it's probably there's some truth to it.
Yeah.
You know, I love Matt's playing. I can't play. I couldn't hang with him for one bar.
It's crazy.
But when I played those paradiddles in that way, you know, I definitely could hear. I was like, well, you know what? He sounds like he can play anything he wants, completely free in any subdivision, holding down any pulse against it. And so it was kind of like, yeah. And I was like super into Animals as leaders at the time. And I was like, yeah, it kind of sounds like it would be something that he could do. So, but it was the early days. I think that was 2014. I put that out and I was like,
wow.
Yeah. You know, and then I did get hundreds of thousands of views, and I made, you know, probably $2,000 on that video. So whatever.
Fuck it, man. You actually made money from posting a drum video, or just even like musical pursuits. Period. Kudos to you. I give anybody props that can pull that shit off.
Yeah, I should probably give him some of that money. But
nah, he's good.
Nah, he's good. Yeah, he's good. I think he's doing all right.
Yeah, right. You know, it's funny, the John Theodore thing. I got to see Mars Volta with him in the band. It was great, like seeing him live with them and that energy. It's the only time I ever saw Mars Volta was with him in the band, and they were killing. And I sometimes tell the story. The first time that I heard him was he played in this band Golden, and they had put out a record called Apollo Stars, and they came through the Mermaid Lounge in New Orleans, and one of my friends was like, hey, there's some guys from Trans Am that are playing, let's go check it out. So I had no idea who he was, and I'm like paying the cover outside, and through the walls I can hear this drummer, and I'm like, wow, whoever this is like really like playing with authority and has this sick feel. And I could hear it outside, and I had a sense of it, and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And I walked in, watched the whole show. I was like, that guy was killer. Bought the CD that night and was like, John Theodore, I should remember that name. And then the Mars Volta comes out, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, John Theodore, I feel like I remember that name. And it took me a while to like even figure out what was going on there. But yeah, I saw him. So I was able to see him twice. I haven't seen him with Queens of the Stone Age or any other bands, but I got to see him with Golden and with Mars Volta. And yeah, dude's bad.
Oh, that was like a spiritual moment for me seeing him play live. I was like,
yeah.
They were opening for System of a Down.
Oh, wow.
And they played at the Calgary Saddle Dome, and a lot of my friends, they had their parents owned a box, like side stage, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And so I got invited, and man, I was like, I don't know, maybe 50 feet from them, but like with no obstruction, and the speakers were just set up in a way where I was still getting like great stereo sound from where it was, and it was unbelievable. Like they started playing and they didn't stop once, you know, for an hour, and they were the opening slot. I feel like half the people left when they stopped playing. It was like nothing against System of a Down. Mars Volta was just like, they were the band of the night.
Yeah.
And oh man, it was so heavy. Like it was just like he put so much of himself into the kit. And I'm like innately, I'm actually like a rock drummer. I just don't play that way so much. Probably something to do with having a kid and then having to kind of lower my dynamics because the nursery's right above my studio. So like I've kind of learned how to play quieter, but
yeah,
I want to hit the drums like John Theodore. I can't. And yeah, I love that style of playing. And like when he was doing the trash stack, it's like he was doing the trash stack thing before I saw anybody doing that. I'm sure there was someone else doing it, but I'd never saw that. It was just like a bunch of busted up metal.
Right.
He was just hitting it in these insanely syncopated patterns that just like the energy of it was like infectious. And yeah, that was, man, I was so lucky. I only saw him the one time, and then I saw Blake Fleming when he filled in. They opened for the Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
And then I saw they played at Mac Hall, and that was Pridgeon, and that was just no opening band, just a 3-hour Mars Volta set. With his see-through DW kit front and center. Yeah, that was very cool as well.
That's nuts. Wow. Yeah, you mentioned Blake Fleming. I've taken a couple of lessons with him.
Oh, where's he at?
Back in the day, he's in, I believe, upstate New York, or he's in like Pennsylvania. He's moved a couple times.
Okay.
But at the time when I was in Brooklyn, he was close enough to where when he would come in New York, I'd hit him up and take a lesson with him. So I think to answer your question, I believe that trash stack thing started with him. Probably going back to like Ladio Balaco and the At the Drive-In guys being fans of that band, and then having him as the original drummer, and then because he was the original drummer, and then he came back into the Mars Volta. That's when you saw him. That's
right.
wild that you saw him.
Yeah, because there's only a couple shows.
Yeah. I believe that that trash stack thing might have, to my understanding, started with him. But I mean, John Theodore sure as hell took it and ran with it like a madman. Good God. 3 records. I was like, all right, I'm getting one.
Exactly.
I have one to this day because of that.
Yeah, he had little sharp, jagged edges coming in. Like, you're just like, what is that? Like, I remember when he was on the cover of Modern Drummer. I like, oh man, I must have read. He turned me on to so much music. Just, Modern Drum used to have the recommended. That's like, that was the best thing. We're missing that today,
Yeah, I remember that. I feel like he mentioned a Dr. John record that I was a big fan of, alongside like Mastodon's Leviathan and maybe like a Tortoise record or something. Right. But I do recall that and being like, oh shit, I didn't know that. Like, that's cool that he was into that record. I didn't know many people that were really into it. Just a big badass record. The meters are the backing band, so you got Zig in there, you got all the other meters.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Alan Toussaint production, and he was just an amazing producer for all these killer New Orleans records. And man, it is one hell of a nasty, slinky, swampy, slap you in the face pimp slap of a 70s record, if there ever was one.
No way.
It's so badass.
What is that one? I must have checked it, because I checked everything on that list. What was it called?
Yeah, it's called Decitively Bonnaroo. I believe the Bonnaroo Festival got their name from that, if I recall correctly. And
okay.
Before Bonnaroo came around, I was like, Bonero? I didn't know how the fuck to pronounce it. I just knew it was a cool record, and the meters were on it, and I was a fan of Zig, and it was just a cool record with him on it. But yeah, that record is the shit for sure. You check it out.
Cool.
It's some of the nastiest meters, like greatest songs. I love it. It's one of my all-time favorite records. It's so good.
Oh, that's cool to know. Yeah. Oh, I love, man. I miss it. I don't have Modern Drummer anymore. Maybe I should get it. Is it still being, is it still made? Like,
I don't know if it's in print or not. I can't imagine that it is. I can't imagine that it is.
That's where I got turned on to so much music. Was just those little recommended listening charts from your favorite drummers. You're like, well, what does Peter Erskine listen to? And you're like, oh, like, what's this? And you're like, it's so awesome.
It was a great source of information for sure.
Yeah,
it really was.
And now everything just comes at you like 100 miles an hour these days, and and it's as easy as just like Spotify links. And I don't know. There was something cool about like being like, okay, I gotta find this somehow. Like,
you gotta talk to somebody who knows about it, or you gotta go to a store and hope they have it. It was definitely a search to find shit. And I mean, I crack jokes about it all the time, that like growing up and playing in I guess I got my first kit in 91. So in like the mid 90s, it was still like DCI instructional VHS tapes. So we were going to music stores and buying VHS instructional tapes and like sitting down. I didn't have my VHS, my VHS player and TV in the drum room. There was a separate room. So I would like play it and be like, all right, I think I got it. And then I would run to my drum set and be like, I'm fucking it up. I got to go watch it again. Rewind it. Everything's linear. You got to go right back to that, watch it. Fuck. I didn't have the sense to maybe put the TV in there, but whatever. Good times, strange times, all that,
I had all the Buddy Rich VHS.
Yeah, I had those too.
Yeah, those are awesome, man. I actually have a funny story about Buddy Rich. My first drum teacher, he turned me on to, but he was a jazz guy, and he was like, like big band jazz guy. He's like, Buddy Rich is the best drummer ever will be, and you're like, we've all met 1 or 2 or 10 of those. And, and he gave me the CD Burning for Buddy. But he gave it to me in like, he didn't know where the sleeve was, or, the case for it. So he just gave it to me in like a burnable CD case.
So you didn't know who the drummers were on it?
I grew up listening to this thing, like, I don't know, every day. And I thought it was all Buddy Rich, and it was every famous. So I was like, this guy can do it all. Like this guy. It's
Wow.
like,
He sounds like a different guy on every track.
It's like his drums are different. Like, I was like, he really is the greatest. It's Omar Akeem, Kenny Arnoff, it's so funny. Vinny Wackel. I was just like, I grew up thinking it was all Buddy Rich.
Wow.
It wasn't until I was at a drum camp and someone asked me like my favorite. I was like, oh, Buddy Rich, the Burner for Buddy. They're like, he didn't even play on that record. That was pretty funny.
Oh, damn it. That is too funny, man. Wow. too damn good. You know what I will say, going back to John Theodore for 1 second, and I know we've been kind of talking ad nauseum about him, but
I'll talk about John Theodore all night.
I know. I don't know if you've watched the Stan Bicknell Mars Volta medley that he does, and it's all the John Theodore stuff.
I haven't seen Stan. I saw Troy Wright do that. The other Australian.
I know.
It's definitely
2 Australian
Stan?
guys. It's definitely Stan.
Okay. No, I haven't. Is that recent?
Dude, it's like I don't know how many songs it is. If I had to guess, it's 12 to 14, and it's a medley, and he seamlessly goes from one section to the next. They're all pretty semi-close BPM-wise, I feel like, or at times some of the transitions are. He just fucking flies through them, and he's nailing the parts, and like, his snare sounds great. He's using different cymbals, but the sounds are pretty close. Like the style, the patterns, everything. It's every now and again, I'll just go and just watch that and be like, God damn.
Oh, when is this, years ago or is this recent?
It's a strong decade ago.
Oh man, I gotta watch that. Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
That would have got 18-year-old Carson Very. I played in a Mars Volta cover band.
Really?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we played for our high school battle of the bands, we played Cygnus Vismin Cygnus, the first track on Francis the Mute. You know, the ones like it's crazy, then it does the drop, the hi-hat build, and then it just gets crazy. We had a guy with bongos with guitar pedals hooked up to it. We thought we were so cool for we were all 17, 18 playing Mars Volta live for my high school, and like because everyone was into it, like almost everyone was in my high school was listening to Mars Volta. It was like, for whatever reason, it was a thing. And so we had like people going nuts, and yeah, it was pretty fun. It was really hard songs to do live.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. That's awesome that you found like enough friends to be able to like try to execute that stuff. That's pretty killer.
I think there were so many people that wanted to do it. I think we were turning people away.
Wow. That's amazing.
Sorry, man. We already have 2 percussionists. Like we're good.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's too good, man. Well, another guy that you got into, and one of the harder ones to replicate from my perspective, is definitely Dilla. And I really dug all of those little, and this is all via Instagram, just watching videos of you really nailing the feel, which is so hard, and really getting into the sounds as well. So that the latter of which I always appreciate, and I thought you did a really good job with that. But man, I guess tell me about the process of even sort of navigating that feel. I'm assuming you just had to play along with those tracks pretty extensively.
Yeah, pretty much. I had a really amazing teacher. He's like my all-time favorite drummer, like of all time. His name's Ray Garraway.
Awesome.
And he unfortunately passed away in 2013, but I got to study with him before that. And he drummed for he did like, it's not even the tip of the iceberg. But did you do you know the guy Chaos, the rapper Chaos?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
I don't know. He's a big Canadian rapper, so I don't know.
Gotcha.
It's not like Kanye style, like you guys have down in the States.
Yeah.
But he was a freak on the drums. He was bringing like Alvin mixed with he studied with Efrain, Efrain Toro.
Yeah.
Who taught down at MI forever, and like he like Efrain, and then he had like he was onto the Dilla while it was actually happening.
Wow.
And he was doing the drum and bass thing like when JoJo was just getting into it too. Like he was like, he had all these things going on, and just crushed it so hard. And so it was so inspiring to see someone kind of come in with the jazz hip hop drum and bass thing that he was like, I just wanted to be him on the drums. I still do. I wish I could. And the funny thing is, when I'd be with him, he'd be like, I just want to be like Efren. I just want to be like Efren Toro. So I'm like, got all the Efren Toro, not all his books. I think he's got like 20 books, but I do every day. I do like my stomping and clapping Efren Toro exercises, and try and, you're clapping dotted quarters over stepping in 5 and all that. He's got a course out on Drum Channel, which is just so sick.
Oh, nice. I'll have to check it out.
I digress. Yeah, he was the one who was like, have you checked out? Well, there was actually a bass player that played with him who was like, have you checked out Dilla? And then he got me in touch with Ray. And that's when I started studying with him. And we were just hanging out our first lesson. And he was like, hey, put up a song called Climax by Slum Village. And I was like, oh, okay. And we rigged up the PA system.
Yeah.
And then he sat down and he started playing it in the room. And I was like watching, and he was like, how he was playing, it was like his sticks would like freeze in certain spots. And like, and I was like, oh, wow. Like you're like, and like how he would open his hi-hat and just everything about it. I was like, what is this? Like,
wow.
And he was like, it took me 2 weeks to be able to place that one hi-hat after the open hi-hat. And I just had this realization that I was like, I don't hear it as strong as you do. Like I don't hear it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to hear what he was hearing. So he kind of turned me on. He'd give me a handful of tracks and be like, check out this track from Mos Def, check out these Slum Village tracks, check out, this stuff from the Roots. And he kind of got me onto that stuff. And I would just like, I just would shed it. And then eventually that kind of turned into like, well, if you're going to do it, you should try and get the sonics, a little bit closer. And then I started kind of shedding my mixing and the grooves, and it just kind of never stopped. Like I took a big break, I didn't play or do any Dilla vids for about a year and a half. I just recently started again, and I'm just like I'm better at mixing now, and I hope I'm a little bit better at the drums. So it's like all of a sudden I'm falling in love with it all over again. Kind of this last couple of weeks, I'm like, this is so fun. Yeah, it's just fun. It's just like it's like these little Rubik's cubes, because he would just sit there and I don't know, maybe he sampled an old school break, or maybe he played it in with his fingers. Every track's different. And but just to sit there and like listen through one of his beat tapes and be like, there's always gonna be like 4 or 5 or 6 tracks that you're like, oh, those are the ones I want to figure out. Like because some of them you just can't do on a kit. Like maybe it's like sleigh bells as the hi-hat, and you're like, I'm not gonna do that one. I don't have a sleigh bell stick. Like I should get one, but like but there's always ones that are a kit, and you could get close, and I want to learn first how to get those sounds, and then second how to make it maybe in the wrong order, but like make it feel like that, and then try and get the sounds kind of as close as I can, because I've spent so much time in front of Pro Tools. I'm actually finally starting to get the hang of it. So I'm like, I want to get better at this. So it's kind of like it's like homework as well, but that I love to do. So
that's awesome. That's killer that he turned you on, I guess, to the Slum Village thing, because that was the first time I heard the Dilla stuff as well.
Yeah.
And it's to this day, it's some of my favorite stuff. And I started getting into some of his more solo stuff, honestly, from watching some of your videos, because I was like, oh shit, I guess I need to go hear this track. I'm kind of interested to revert back to the original and see what's going on with it, because it is peculiar. And that's really cool that you had a teacher to physically and visually kind of give you a sense of how an actual drummer would recreate those, what would be unnatural physical movements.
And he did it in such a physical way. Like he would teach so much about like the arc of his stick, and like he'd be like just sit there, playing 16th notes, and like until it becomes a shaker that you're playing to. And I'd be like, oh, what does that mean? Like, and then I'd sit there and I'd be like, okay, it's a shaker. And then I'd start playing, and then my hand would start matching my other limbs, and I'd be like, okay, I don't have it. And then I'd like, he would try and break my limbs apart. He's like, and same with the bass player, who's one of my ultimate mentors, and they played together. And so I kind of had the bass and drummer, ultimate bass player and drummer, who were both kind of teaching me. The bass player still to this day. I mean, he's the guy who calls me and he'll be like, your last video sucked. And you'd be like, oh, he's like, yeah, I wasn't feeling your right foot. Like I did a video of actual proof, you know, which I had to like, you know, it's not easy playing actual proof, Mike Clark.
No.
And I thought, you know, I did okay. And he's like, nah, man, like your right foot, I'm not feeling it. It's not heavy enough. You're not feeling it strongly enough. And I'm like, you're right. Like, you know, so he keeps me humble for sure. I'm like, but Questlove wrote on it. He said it was dope. He's like, don't care. It's trash.
It's trash.
So,
man. That's wild, dude. And you had mentioned that you're a fan of Zig from the Meters, as am I. I kind of grew up hearing that stuff down in New Orleans and everything, and it's always been, maybe because I've heard it so many times, I feel like maybe it's a little bit more natural for me than probably most people. That being said, it's still not easy for me to approximate that, nor is it really for anybody. But there are quite a few drummers down in New Orleans who seem to be able to do it, who are just so comfortable at playing super slow, loopy, swampy kind of funk, super slow funk shit, because it's so much different than like James Brown or Sly and the Family Stone, which is, you know, the meter stuff could be really slow. And that's when it's like, in addition to it being slow, the feel is super, super loopy. It's like that shit's hard, but it's interesting that like you could navigate some of the Dilla stuff and then it also acknowledge that like the Zig feels are hard as hell too.
Oh, they're so hard, man. You hear it and you're like, I got it. And then so you're playing to the track and you're like, yeah, I got it. And then the track goes away and it's like, where's your groove now, white boy? And I'm like, you know, it's like, it's hard. It's just hard to get in that Zig feeling. It's like,
totally.
He's like, cause he's playing off something way deeper than what you hear. It's like, he's got, you know, whatever the clave of the music so internalized and like,
for sure, man,
because the guitars and the bass, they're not like really helping him out too much. Like they're really rhythmic, but like he's sitting kind of over here always. You know?
I think Adam Deitch said it. I think he said they're linear in the sense only that everything kind of has its own syncopated moment, but collectively it makes the meters. But I mean, George Porter's bass playing is absolutely killer. You know, Leo's guitar playing, so rhythmic. But if you listen to it, they're all kind of playing these separate little parts, which I guess is in a sense is kind of both, you know, Afro drumming, Afro Cuban, even like all of that. Right. It's all these separate parts that make this collective, as opposed to sort of more of a unison sort of like bombastic thing that was maybe a little more akin to maybe what James Brown would do. The Meters just kind of always had this loosey-goosey, separate, but somehow chemistry, you know, collectively, it all came together. It's kind of astonishing.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. And it just makes you want to sit there and be like, okay, well, how can I feel something inside that? you're like, what do I have to do? Do I got to hit myself? Like,
I know,
beat it into my chest. Like how, like, and then, it just opens up a whole other realm of like trying to like internalize time feels and it's never ending. Hey, it's
I
like
know.
Anytime you think you figure something out, it's just like, no.
Yeah.
Back to the drawing board. Yeah.
I know. I just saw you also posted a thing a while back about kind of doing like some Elvin Jones kind of stuff, and it sounded really good, man. I was curious sort of what led you down that path, because I had kind of slept on Elvin for a long time and was more of a Tony Williams guy, probably just from like the Miles Quintet stuff and like the 70s records. Believe It was one that is one that I dig to this day. What's interesting about him is he really switched his style. I mean, from being such a jazz guy and then going into this sort of early 70s like fusion kind of thing that ultimately influenced guys like Vinnie Colaiuta, who has one of the most massive drum influences in modern day that you could probably point to. But what led you to Elvin?
Oh, it was definitely having the mentors that I did. They're just like Dale. Dale's the bass player who I'm talking about. He is a ridiculous, like insane bass player. Like, I don't know how comfortably be me talking about him, so I'll keep it short. But like John Patitucci is very aware of who Dale James is. he's as heavy as it gets. And he would be like, talk about, he got to see Elvin live, and he'd be like, man, I went and I just like, I couldn't even take like the voodoo. It's like the energy that he can put off. He's like, I had to go like in the bathroom. I go in there. He's like, Alex Acuna is like keeled over, like being like, you too, hey man. Like, like I can't even be in the room. Like, and I grew up listening to, I Love Supreme. Like I had that record, and it was like just such a magical record for me. I don't know who got that in my hands when I was super young, but like and I'm really glad I liked it, because like for whatever reason it like spoke to me. I was like, man, this record is so amazing. I was listening to like Our Lady Peace and Mars Volta, and then like John Coltrane, and I was obsessed with the energy of the music. I can't say like I ever figured out any of the drum parts or anything,
Right.
but I would play to it and try and match the energy. How could you even say that?
Yeah.
Melvin? But like I would just sit there, with headphones on and play. But I just like, it's his vibe. It's like, it's this voodoo thing that like I've never heard anywhere else really. And it's like, and then when you play slow, you're like, oh yeah, I don't even understand how to hear a triplet. Like, it's like, he makes it so clear that I don't know how to play a triplet at all. It's
Right.
like, his thing is like 100 miles wide. Like if I could just get 1% of what he had, like I'd be so thrilled. Like he, whatever it is. Yeah. So to answer your question, I'm just so attracted to his energy on the kit and just how he plays. I have no idea how he does it. I don't know how to, write anything out.
Right.
I could never transcribe it. I know people do, but I'll go through phases where that's all I'll listen to, and I just don't post about it because it's so hard and I sound so bad. But that one clip, I got a good take. So I was like, hey, that's okay.
Magic of Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The highlight reel, right?
Yeah, that's the way it works. It's funny.
Yeah.
One of my early drum instructors when I was in college, he was like, all right, we're studying jazz independence. We're going to do like the Elvin Jones kind of triplet to some degree. I mean, you could go down a wormhole of how extensive it gets, I think is what you're talking about. But it's funny, like I studied that and I was like, okay, that sounds like I guess we never really went too far into it. And maybe if he would have said, okay, here's the base of it, and then like this is how absolutely absurd it gets. And he probably did show me that, and then I was like, well, I don't know what the fuck that is.
Right.
And then I ended up studying with another guy at some point, but I should have like followed up, like, could you show me more of what it is that he does,
Right. Right.
rather than
right.
like, I'm going to explain this to your little reptilian brain in the most simplistic form so you fucking understand it, But it's he's an enigma, but one of the biggest drum influences out there in Elvin for sure.
Yeah, unbelievable. And I was a huge that record in particular, believe it when you said that. I mean, I've listened to that record hundreds of times.
It's badass.
The energy from that too. It's just what's
so
that? Is
good.
it the second track? Fred? Is it called Fred?
I think so.
Like he's doing the.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so good with Alan Holdsworth and that's like, and Snake Oil. I think it's Snake Oil. I don't know.
I forget the track names. I throw the record on, literally like just the vinyl on, and I'll go front to back and just be like, shit, man. Fucking Tony mixing it up. That's one of the things. And Nate Wood, when I interviewed him, he mentioned it as well. He's like, he was saying like, I'll ask some guys that get kind of pretty heavily into the jazz thing, and if they have a preference, if they had to choose one, Elvin or Tony. And Nate, as I recall, I hope I'm not wrong about this, was kind of saying, what's really cool about Tony is that he had that jazz phase, then he changed it up, went from traditional to match grip, like he played his kit, played a different sound, switched up the feel, changed everything.
Right.
That's what's so fucking cool about Tony.
Yeah,
Williams.
that's cool. I'm a huge Roy Haynes fan too.
I saw Roy Haynes live like when he was old and he was still ripping, man.
Oh, he's still ripping. He's still playing. He's still playing. Yeah.
How old? He's 90? Is he in his 90s? I don't even know.
He's 96 or something.
Oh my, he's 146.
I could be wrong. Yeah. He might be 146. It's like I'm a flat ride guy. I love flat ride.
Really? I can't do them. I have to have a bell, man. The flat rides fuck me up.
Oh, really?
I can't play them. I can't play them. I cannot play them.
I use them like crashes for crashes, like on everything.
That I could see.
they record so well. They're just like this huge little soft, washy.
Oh,
I don't know. Maybe
that.
it's the kind of beats I play. It's kind of like I don't know. There's something about like just like crushing a flat ride kind of out there somewhere, and it's just like whatever it does, it kind of like implodes and explodes at the same time. It has this like cool effect. So I love flat rides, but it was like all because of that question was that record Question and Answer with Roy Haynes and Dave Holland.
I don't know that record.
But Roy Haynes, he plays so much flat ride, and he like, because he played a 20-inch flat ride for well, I think he probably still does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love. He was one who kind of got me going on flat rides. I was like, Roy Haynes and the flat ride. I love it.
That's wild, man. You've from what we talked about with some of the paradiddle challenges and whatnot, you've gone through some permutations and I think some good independence exercises with those. But, soloing can be such a different thing, especially if you're improvising and kind of just flowing between chops and ideas and feels and everything else. And the ability to have like fluidity with that. Is that something that can you just sit down and just rip like fluid, all that shit for like 2 minutes without stumbling and sticks falling and knocking over cymbals and sounding like an asshole at some point? Because I can't.
No, I can't at all. No, I suck so bad. Like I honestly, it's like, some people can tell a great story. Like they're like, as soon as they start talking, everyone in the room just kind of wants to listen to them. I'm real envious of those people. I can't tell a story worth shit. Like I'm a terrible storyteller, but once in a while I can maybe do a one-liner that, gets a smile or a laugh or something. Yeah. So that's kind of like my playing. Like at no point do I want to be the guy who like is in the spotlight and needs to tell us like a beautiful or heart-wrenching or nightmare or like something on the kit for like 5 minutes. Or like I'm deathly afraid of that. But kind of let's play a bit and maybe eventually I'll open up and maybe I can get a word in here and there. But it's like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable there yet. Maybe I will one day. I definitely work on it. But I'm disappointed almost all the time.
That's interesting. And you definitely hear that phrase storytelling in regards to like a solo motif or whatever it is. And I mean, if I must say so, I've got no shortage of stories, can talk shit for days and definitely can tell stories. So maybe I need to think a little bit more about the stories that I tell, incorporate that into my solo, and maybe I'll be onto something.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I see. I just can't tell a story. I can like, did you hear that? Did you see that video? Like, what? Like, yeah, is it like, I'll try and tell a story. Like, yeah, as a guy who said he couldn't burp drinking a sparkling water.
Right.
Like you didn't. Yeah, I'm
you're one of those guys.
As cringy as that was, that's how my solos are.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
With social media and YouTube and sort of putting yourself out there via those mediums, it's something that I like to ask sort of younger drummers that definitely exist more so in that realm than maybe others. Does it feel like a necessary evil? Do you enjoy it? How do you feel about, I guess, the obligation of sort of keeping up with the amount of posts and all of that?
Actually, I struggle with it all the time. I've like over the last year or two, I've deleted my Instagram account, like fully off Instagram for many months at a time. Like I think I've done it and it's not good. I should just be able to not go on it, or like, why do I need to delete it? Like it's for me, because I'm just like,
save yourself from yourself.
I'm just like, I just want it. I just don't want it. But then you go back on and instantly you're like, oh man, I just lost 500 more followers. Oh my gosh, I need to post more. No, I don't know. It's brought me a lot of cool opportunities. I do a lot of the work I do is remote tracking, and almost all of that is driven through Instagram.
Right.
So, and because I've posted the things that I really enjoy playing, that's the kind of work that comes my way. So it's this cool thing with social media where, it's like you kind of put out, it's like, I'm not getting hit up to do metal gigs. That's for sure. I kind of get hit up by producers a lot of the time who are like, hey, I programmed this groove. I think the track's awesome, but I really love it to be a real kit. And you're kind of like, oh yeah, I can do that. Like,
Yeah.
for sure. Like, let's
Totally.
do it. And let's work something out. So I get a lot of that kind of work. So, I think it's like a necessary evil for me, especially now launching a business. It's like,
For sure.
I don't really know where else I would go.
Right.
I mean, I could go spam the forums on gear sluts all day, but I don't know. I don't have much love for that. I'm not a forum guy. So I'd rather just put out the art that I like, art, other people's music that I play to.
Yeah.
A lot of my videos are original stuff.
Sure.
But I would rather put out the stuff and then it kind of seems to come back at you.
Right.
But what do you think?
I don't post nearly as much. It's more or less obligatory stuff. If I'm putting something out, which is not so frequent, and I might start doing it more now that I have the drum room set up, I might start doing that and start playing along to some tracks and doing some different stuff. But I'll inevitably at some point probably get tired of the obligation of putting myself out there. I'll probably take a break from it. It always feels a little bit like I feel generally conflicted with phone technology and how social media works on it, because I feel as though the component that turns you into like a dopamine zombie who can walk just like obliviously through life and like ultimately kind of confuse your real life and real world that you live in with the avatar that you've created for other people to view is confusing. Yeah. So those are the aspects of it, like the multi-layered aspects of it that for me, I'm like, I got to get off this shit because I feel like I'm still operating in this real world and I don't want that weighing on me, which ultimately doesn't have that much weight. So how much importance do I ultimately put on it, you know? So that's where it gets confusing and slippery for me, but I'm also older. And so I'm like, phones, social media, internet, you know?
No, I'm very much like that. It's a constant thing, like struggle, I guess.
Yeah.
Say. Do you know Andrew Huberman Lab?
Yeah.
You know that podcast?
I don't know his podcast, but I know him.
Okay, yeah, he's like neuroscientist at Stanford.
That's right.
His podcast, he's got these episodes on dopamine and kind of the reward circuits and everything and how they've been engineered into this stuff. But it's fascinating when you kind of learn how you can, he kind of gives some cool tools that you can use. And one of them is like, they found, these are published in, top journals like Cell and Science and stuff. But if you delay gratification of what would normally cause a dopamine hit, it will raise your dopamine in the pursuit of that goal. I'm saying that terribly. You'd have to go check out his podcast. But essentially how I interpret it was, when I post a video, sometimes I'll delete Instagram off my phone for 24 hours. So I won't allow myself to, whatever that dopamine hit is where all of a sudden all the comments are flooding in, you're getting hailed up. And you just don't get any of that. And so that's kind of a nice thing. And you have to do it randomly. Like it can't be like every second video, you don't allow yourself to get any of that or whatever. I know it's a weird thing to say, but that is something.
No, I get it. I totally get that.
I'll just like post a video and just disappear for a day or two
and then just sort of blast the replies. Thanks. Hey, all that. And then you're like, all right.
Yeah. Cheers. Prayer hands.
Oh man.
But I use Instagram as a practice tool. Like I go, that's a deal of track. I want to learn how to mix the drums like that. And in the process, just because I've done I used to work for Drumeo and stuff. So I have all this great camera equipment. I've got all the lights already, everything's set up. It's super easy for me. So I'm like, I'll film a little bit of it. And then when I'm done mixing it, I'll put it up. And so it kind of just works into my day. It's not like I don't go out of my way to make videos. I definitely kind of work it into my big picture goals.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think a lot of people will probably do that.
For sure. But also it's crucial to just having a setup ready to go. And then you can sit down and not have to worry about, is this on? Is that on? Is this on? Was that?
Yeah.
I mean, some of that will ensue regardless. That's just the nature of technology. But once I had a drum room with cameras set up and then I was working out the mics and everything else, and I could just go down there, press record and just go for it. it's so much better than playing, thinking, and looking around and getting distracted ultimately about what technology is going wrong, because then inevitably it affects your performance. At least it does me. I can't block that shit out if I'm fucking worried about how everything is going wrong around me.
Yeah. It used to, like, you know, back in the day, it would take me not all day. It would take me, you know, an hour or 2 or 3 to like do it from start to finish. I'd be like, I had 3 GoPros and I'd be like, oh, are they working? Like they didn't have screens on them. And now just, acquiring the gear I've had, like, I don't think about it. If a video takes me longer than half hour, I won't do it. Like I'm not interested in spending all day to create social media content. I'd rather, just be shedding, not thinking about cameras being
absolutely
Totally.
Man. That is the right call. Well, man, I think you mentioned earlier before we hit the record button, you'd been doing some, did you have like some music, some instrumental music that you've been working on that's coming out as well?
Yeah, we have a record coming out probably in the next 2 months with this guy, Chris Phantom out of Detroit. And he's one of my favorite producers ever. And super proud of it. We've been working on and off for 5 years. So it's,
I thought 19 months was a long time. Well, goddamn, 5 years.
It's pretty pathetic. It's like, honestly, it's because of this loop project that kind of has taken so long. I'm like, okay, well, now I've run out of money sending it to India to the guys who are coding the website. So now I can't get it mixed. And so I'll mix it myself, and then I can only take it so far. And then I'm like, I got to get it mixed still.
Right.
So, it's done. It's just needs some polish and got to figure out the artwork, take a couple photos.
That's another process.
Yeah. And figure out if you're going to, do videos for the songs.
And there's that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so all that kind of stuff. But
keep me posted on that, man, as well as the sample pack, the 5 billion track sample pack that took 19 months. So
it's only 4 billion. So.
4 billion. All right. How's 1 billion over?
Hey, thanks so much for having me on, man.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for the hang. And man, we'll talk soon.
Casey, sounds good. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Hope y'all enjoyed the combo. Definitely laughing and geeking out and talking about no shortage of awesomeness with Carson. And definitely look forward to checking out this new sample pack he's got coming around the bend. Keep your eyes and ears peeled for it. And we'll catch you on the next one. Crash, bang, boom.